Don't you think men really like intelligence more when it comes right down to it?
Please. Are we going to go back to that? Are you kidding?
Sure. I mean, a brain, a character.
Picture this. It's 1976, and Johnny Carson storms off his own television set, marches straight into another studio next door, and confronts his friend Don Rickles live on camera about a broken cigarette box. The audience gasps, cameras keep rolling, and one of the most awkward moments in television history unfolds before millions of viewers. This wasn't supposed to happen. The Tonight Show was America's feel-good bedtime story, hosted by the king of late-night television himself. But behind Johnny Carson's charming smile and perfect timing lurked a man who didn't back down from anyone. When celebrities crossed him, insulted him, or betrayed his trust, Carson fought back with the fury of a wounded lion. Today, we're diving deep into the most explosive arguments and bitter feuds that rocked Johnny Carson's legendary career. These aren't just celebrity spats or publicity stunts. These are real, raw moments where friendships exploded, careers ended, and the man behind America's favorite desk showed his true colors. Some of these fights were so intense they lasted decades. Others ended in physical confrontations. And one tragic clash with his own son left scars that never healed. Get ready to see Johnny Carson like you've never seen him before. This is the untold story of television's nicest guy and his most savage battles. Let's start with the fight that shocked America and destroyed one of entertainment's most beautiful friendships. For over 20 years, Joan Rivers wasn't just Johnny Carson's guest host. She was like his daughter in show business. Carson discovered her when nobody else would give her a chance. He put her on The Tonight Show again and again, letting her fill in for him when he took vacations. Joan always said Johnny saved her career and her life. But in 1986, everything changed in one terrible phone call. Fox Television offered Joan her own late-night talk show. She would become the first woman ever to host a major network late-night program. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, and Joan said yes without thinking twice. Here's where it gets complicated. Joan knew she should call Johnny first, but Fox warned her the news would leak within hours. She was caught between protecting the secret and protecting her friendship. She chose the job, and it was the biggest mistake of her life. When Johnny found out from the newspapers instead of from Joan herself, he felt like she had stabbed him in the back. This wasn't just business anymore. This was personal betrayal from someone he loved like family. Joan tried calling Johnny to explain, but he wouldn't listen. The moment he heard her voice, he slammed the phone down. She tried again and again, but Johnny had made his decision. Joan Rivers was dead to him. What followed was even more brutal than the silent treatment. Johnny didn't just stop talking to Joan. He banned her from The Tonight Show for 26 years. Even after Johnny retired, the ban continued. Joan became a ghost in the late-night world, erased from the place that made her famous. Years later, Joan would say losing Johnny hurt more than any bad review or bombed performance ever could. She didn't just lose a mentor or a business partner. She lost a father figure, and the pain followed her until the day she died. The Joan Rivers feud showed America that Johnny Carson's loyalty came with a price. Cross him once, and you were finished forever. But sometimes Johnny's anger wasn't cold and calculating. Sometimes it exploded in spectacular fashion, right in front of everyone. Don Rickles learned this the hard way when he made the mistake of touching something that belonged to Johnny Carson. Don and Johnny were old friends who loved roasting each other. Don was famous for his insult comedy, and Johnny could dish it out just as well. Their friendship was built on friendly attacks and playful revenge. But one night, Don went too far. It happened when Don was guest hosting The Tonight Show while Johnny was away. On Johnny's desk sat a small wooden cigarette box, polished and perfect. It was one of Johnny's prized possessions, something he kept close every single night. Don picked it up, probably just being curious, and accidentally broke the lid. When Johnny came back the next day and saw his broken box, he demanded answers. The crew told him exactly what happened, and Johnny's eyes lit up with mischievous anger. This was war, and Don Rickles was about to pay. But Johnny didn't just confront Don privately. He decided to embarrass him in the most public way possible. Don was filming his sitcom in the studio right next door, and Johnny had an idea that would go down in television history. Without any warning, Johnny grabbed the broken box and marched straight into Don's filming session. The studio audience watching Don's show was completely confused when Johnny Carson suddenly appeared on their set, holding a broken piece of wood and looking furious. Don's face went white with panic. He knew exactly why Johnny was there, and he knew he was in deep trouble. Johnny started grilling him right there in front of everyone, asking why he broke the box and demanding an explanation. The audience didn't know whether to laugh or hide. Don tried to joke his way out of it, but Johnny wouldn't let him off the hook. This wasn't funny anymore. This was Johnny Carson showing everyone who was really in charge. Don squirmed and stuttered, completely helpless against Johnny's calm but deadly anger. What made this moment so incredible wasn't just the surprise or the humor. It was seeing Johnny Carson drop his nice guy mask and reveal the fierce competitor underneath. He turned a simple accident into a masterpiece of public revenge, and poor Don Rickles never saw it coming. The broken box incident became one of The Tonight Show's most famous moments, but it also showed America something important about Johnny Carson. He might smile and joke on camera, but nobody, not even his closest friends, was safe from his wrath. Speaking of wrath, Johnny's feud with Wayne Newton was so intense it almost turned violent. Wayne Newton was known as Mr. Las Vegas, a glamorous performer with a powerful voice and a carefully crafted image. But Johnny Carson turned Wayne into a punching bag, making jokes about his appearance, his masculinity, and even his business deals. At first, Wayne tried to ignore the jokes. But Johnny kept pushing and pushing until Wayne couldn't take it anymore. The final straw came when Johnny joked that Wayne lost a casino deal because of mob connections. That wasn't comedy anymore. That was character assassination, and Wayne Newton wasn't going to stand for it. Wayne stormed into NBC studios and demanded a meeting with Johnny Carson. What happened next was one of the most intense confrontations in television history. According to people who were there, Wayne didn't come to talk. He came to deliver an ultimatum. Wayne told Johnny that if the jokes didn't stop, there would be serious consequences. He wasn't laughing or smiling. He was deadly serious, and Johnny could see it in his eyes. Some people even said Wayne threatened to get physical if Johnny kept making him the butt of his jokes. Johnny Carson was shocked. He was used to celebrities laughing off his jokes or complaining quietly through their agents. He wasn't used to someone confronting him face to face with real anger and real consequences. Wayne Newton had called his bluff, and Johnny didn't know how to respond. The result was immediate and total. Wayne Newton's name completely disappeared from Johnny's monologues. The jokes stopped overnight, not gradually, but all at once. For a man who prided himself on comedic freedom, Johnny's retreat was a stunning admission that he had pushed too far. Wayne Newton had done something almost impossible. He had made Johnny Carson back down. But not every celebrity was willing to fight back so directly. Some chose a quieter form of protest, like actor Raymond Burr. Raymond Burr was famous for playing Perry Mason and Ironside, two tough, intelligent characters that made him a household name. But when Raymond appeared on The Tonight Show, Johnny turned him into a target for fat jokes and cruel comments about his weight. At first, Raymond tried to be a good sport about it. He smiled through the jokes and played along with Johnny's humor. But privately, he was hurt and embarrassed. Raymond quietly asked the producers to ask Johnny to ease up on the weight jokes, but the message never seemed to get through. After Raymond's second appearance on the show, he had enough. He didn't make a big scene or demand a public apology. He simply refused to come back. Raymond Burr, one of television's biggest stars, quietly boycotted The Tonight Show for the rest of Johnny's career. Johnny never publicly addressed Raymond's absence, and Raymond never talked about their conflict in interviews. It was a cold war between two professionals, fought in silence but felt by everyone who noticed. Raymond Burr's quiet protest was powerful because it showed that Johnny's jokes had real consequences. They weren't just harmless fun. They could hurt people's feelings and damage their dignity. Raymond chose to walk away rather than endure more humiliation, and his absence spoke louder than any angry confrontation ever could. But Johnny didn't just fight with celebrities. Sometimes he fought with the press, and when the New York Times published details about his salary, Johnny fired back with all the fury he could muster. In 1980, the New York Times reported that Johnny Carson was making $25 million a year, making him the highest-paid television performer in history. Most celebrities would have ignored the story or quietly corrected it, but Johnny was furious. He felt the newspaper had invaded his privacy and made him look greedy during a time when many Americans were struggling financially. So Johnny did what he did best. He used his platform to fight back. That night, viewers tuned in expecting laughs, but they got something completely different. Johnny stood behind his desk with a copy of the New York Times in his hand, and he was visibly angry. Johnny called the article unfair and accused the newspaper of printing false information. His voice was sharp, his jokes were bitter, and his mood was darker than anyone had ever seen on television. For the first time, Johnny Carson dropped his professional mask and showed America his raw anger. The audience was stunned. They had never seen Johnny lose his cool like this. He wasn't just defending his salary. He was defending his reputation and his carefully crafted image as a down-to-earth, relatable entertainer. The confrontation with the New York Times showed that Johnny Carson couldn't handle being criticized the same way he criticized others. He could dish it out, but when someone turned the tables on him, he fought back with everything he had. But perhaps the most heartbreaking fight in Johnny's career happened with someone much closer to home. In 1987, NBC threw a huge party to celebrate Johnny's 25th anniversary as host of The Tonight Show. It should have been one of the happiest nights of his life, but it turned into a nightmare because of a brutal confrontation with his own son. Johnny Carson had 3 sons, but his relationships with them were complicated and painful. His dedication to The Tonight Show and his struggles with alcohol had created distance between him and his children. His middle son, Rick, had tried for years to connect with his father, but Johnny was always too busy or too distant. When Rick showed up to the anniversary party, the tension was already thick. According to people who were there, what started as a quiet conversation between father and son quickly exploded into a screaming match in front of NBC executives, celebrities, and show producers. Nobody knows exactly what started the fight, but some people said Rick accused Johnny of caring more about fame than family. Others said Johnny snapped when Rick brought up old family problems during what was supposed to be a celebration. Whatever the cause, the confrontation was brutal and heartbreaking. Johnny, who was famous for keeping his emotions under control, was visibly shaken by the fight. He left his own anniversary party early, and people said he looked devastated. The fight with Rick wasn't just another celebrity feud. It was a father and son destroying each other with words, and there was nothing funny about it. Tragically, Rick Carson died in a car crash just 4 years later, in 1991. He and Johnny never reconciled. The anniversary party fight was one of their last conversations, and it ended in anger and pain that could never be healed. The clash with his son showed the world a different side of Johnny Carson. Behind all the success and fame was a man who struggled to connect with the people he loved most. It was the most humanizing and heartbreaking moment of his entire career. But Johnny's fights weren't always sad or serious. Sometimes they were spectacular and dramatic, like the night Jacqueline Suzanne threw a drink in his face. Jacqueline Suzanne was a best-selling author famous for writing Valley of the Dolls, a scandalous novel that critics hated but readers loved. When she appeared on The Tonight Show, Johnny made it clear that he thought her writing was trashy and her success was undeserved. During the interview, Johnny made several cutting remarks about Jacqueline's work and her appearance. He called her books guilty pleasures and suggested that she looked more like a truck driver than a novelist. Jacqueline kept her cool during the show, but she was seething inside. After the cameras stopped rolling, Jacqueline got her revenge in the most dramatic way possible. At the post-show party, she walked up to Johnny with a Black Russian cocktail in her hand, stared him down, and threw the entire drink right in his face. The room went silent. Johnny stood there dripping with vodka and coffee liqueur, completely stunned. Jacqueline didn't say a word. She just turned around and walked away, leaving Johnny soaked and speechless. Word of the drink-throwing incident spread like wildfire through Hollywood. Jacqueline Suzanne had done something almost nobody had ever done. She had physically retaliated against Johnny Carson and made him look foolish in front of his peers. Johnny never publicly mentioned the incident, but Jacqueline was quietly banned from The Tonight Show forever. She had made her point, but it cost her any chance of appearing on America's most important talk show again. The drink-throwing moment became legendary because it showed that some people wouldn't just sit there and take Johnny's insults. Jacqueline Suzanne refused to be humiliated, and she fought back in a way that nobody would ever forget. Johnny's conflicts weren't always about personal slights or broken friendships. Sometimes they reflected bigger social issues, like when he made an inappropriate joke about Vanessa Williams. In 1984, Vanessa Williams made history as the first African-American woman crowned Miss America. It was a breakthrough moment for diversity and representation. But when Vanessa appeared on The Tonight Show, Johnny made a comment that many people found racially insensitive and deeply hurtful. Johnny's joke suggested that Vanessa's victory was just a publicity stunt or a token gesture rather than a genuine achievement. The comment sparked outrage from viewers and civil rights groups who felt Johnny had diminished Vanessa's historic accomplishment. Vanessa Williams herself said she was hurt and disappointed by Johnny's remark. She had worked incredibly hard to break barriers and make history, only to have her achievement turned into a punchline by America's most famous talk show host. The controversy marked a rare crack in Johnny's reputation as a unifying and beloved entertainer. Critics argued that the joke reflected broader cultural problems in entertainment, while supporters said Johnny was just reflecting the attitudes of his time. Regardless of intentions, the Vanessa Williams incident showed that Johnny's jokes could have serious consequences beyond just hurting someone's feelings. They could reinforce harmful stereotypes and undermine important social progress. The controversy was a wake-up call for Johnny and for late-night television in general. It showed that comedians couldn't just say whatever they wanted without considering the impact of their words on real people and real communities. After decades of fights, feuds, and confrontations, Johnny Carson's career ended with one final argument that reminded everyone why he was such a formidable force in television. During his farewell episode in 1992, an unexpected disagreement with a younger comedian turned into a passionate defense of his legacy. As Johnny prepared to say goodbye after 30 years, he invited several friends and colleagues to celebrate his career. But when one of the younger comedians suggested that Johnny's style was outdated and that the new generation of hosts was bringing necessary change, Johnny fought back hard. What could have been a polite exchange turned into a sharp debate about the future of late-night television. Johnny defended his record and dismissed the idea that his era was over. He was proud of what he had built, and he wasn't going to let anyone diminish his achievements. Even in his final moments as host, Johnny Carson showed that he was still a fighter. He might be retiring, but he wasn't fading quietly. He was going out on his own terms, defending his life's work until the very end. Johnny Carson's career was defined by laughter, but it was shaped by conflict. These intense arguments and bitter feuds revealed the man behind the microphone, proud, passionate, and sometimes ruthless. He could be generous and cruel, forgiving and vengeful, often in the same day. The fights with Joan Rivers, Don Rickles, Wayne Newton, and others weren't just celebrity drama. They were windows into Johnny's complex personality and the high-pressure world of late-night television. They showed us that even America's most beloved entertainer had a dark side, and that his charm came with a cost. Johnny Carson wasn't perfect, but his flaws made him human. His arguments and feuds were just as memorable as his best interviews and funniest monologues. They reminded us that behind every smile was a real person with real emotions, real pride, and real pain. In the end, Johnny Carson's legacy isn't just about the laughs he gave us. It's about the complete picture of a complicated man who dominated television for 3 decades through sheer force of personality. He was brilliant and petty, generous and vindictive, beloved and feared. And that's exactly what made him unforgettable. These intense moments of conflict didn't diminish Johnny Carson's greatness. They revealed it in all its messy, human complexity. And 30 years after his retirement, we're still talking about them because they showed us something true about fame, friendship, and the price of being a legend. If this deep dive into Johnny Carson's most explosive moments surprised you, make sure to hit that like button and let us know in the comments which feud shocked you the most. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest videos exploring the untold stories behind your favorite celebrities. Share this with anyone who loves classic television history, and we'll see you in the next video where we uncover even more secrets from the golden age of entertainment.